Devilman Crybaby? Huh, sounds kinda weird, but what's the worst that could happen?
1 week later.
Oh dear God, what did I get myself into? Have you ever planned on doing something and then immediately get sidetracked by something else? Well, that was me with Devilman Crybaby. Don't worry guys, I'm still planning on doing the Vagabond reviews. I have heard the name Devilman Crybaby mentioned a lot when people were talking about how it influenced the likes of Berserk and Evangelion. So after getting recommended to it by members of the community, I thought, sure, why not? For the purposes of this review, I did watch the modern version, which released on Netflix in 2018. Also, this review is gonna have a lot of spoilers, so this is your one and only warning. So to start off, I just had to ask, how does one even begin to describe what Devilman Crybaby is? As I sit here typing away at my keyboard, writing the script, I really don't know where to begin. So if I start to ramble as this review goes on, I apologize. Okay, so Devilman Crybaby may actually be the darkest, most messed up thing I have ever seen, and I kind of liked that. You could probably divide the show into two halves. You have the first 5 episodes, and then you have the second 5. And to be completely honest, I really wasn't enjoying that first half all that much. So we have our main character Akira and his friend Ryo teaming up to fight against demons that are secretly invading our world. That's a cool idea, but I wasn't a fan of the execution. Although I did really like the insanity that was the way Akira received his Devilman powers from the Sabbath party. I really wasn't prepared for what this show was before I started it, so once we got to that point, it really was quite a shocker. However, from that point on, Devilman Crybaby already kind of played its biggest hand, because it's at the Sabbath party where we see Ryo actually go out and start murdering people to trigger the devils to come. Now, I don't care what kind of justification you're going to throw at me, but if you have a character like Ryo just start murdering people out of the blue, I'm just going to mark him as a villain from then on. And then surprise, surprise, Ryo is the big bad at the end of the series.
You didn't see that coming?
But anyways, we spend a few episodes from that point on with Ryo and Akira teaming up to face off against the demon invasion. But yeah, it really wasn't until later where it's confirmed who Ryo is did his character start working for me. So I already mentioned the amount of shocking stuff earlier, which includes a lot of nudity and sexual content. Now, I really didn't want it to bother me, but by the end of the series, I just thought I had to mention this. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't have any issues with the occasional anime titty or whatnot. What I'm struggling with, though, is to find a purpose for why it's really in the story in the amount of quantity it is. What kind of a theme or message was the author trying to convey by having his characters constantly get horny and be put in positions of vulnerability? It's certainly a realistic thing. You know, humans are inherently horny and are often naked and vulnerable. I don't really think gritty amounts of nudity was necessary for where the story ends up going, and it really just kind of felt like a distracting piece of fan service that was constant. But I will say, once we actually get to the second half of Devilman Crybaby, things actually improve a lot for me, and they just go absolutely bonkers. So Ryo sets into motion his plan to cause mass amounts of hysteria by exposing the existence of demons to the real world. Once everybody starts suspecting their friends and neighbors of being demons in disguise, things just go out of control. Riots break out, the military is dispatched, and people are being crucified in the streets. After all that, then a mass of white light appears, which starts to engulf parts of the planet. Because of this demonic outbreak and the mass amounts of violence occurring, God himself has arrived to put a stop to things. So yeah, the show that starts off, which is a couple of high school students going out and to a party, ends with the actual end of the world and God fighting Satan. So while the war between heaven and hell is breaking out, Akira decides he's going to go out and try to find other Devilman to save from being murdered by angry rioters. Now, I haven't really said much about Akira's friend group, and that's because I just don't have a whole lot to say about the likes of Miki and the wannabe SoundCloud rappers. I just never really felt like they contributed much to what was going on, at least until this part of the story. Because it's at this point where Miki decides she's going to use her status as a minor celebrity to try and spread the awareness and preach that not all Devilmen are evil, some of them can have a heart of a human. However, she learned a valuable lesson that the people on the internet are kind of absolute bags. An angry mob arrives at Miki's house and then proceeds to chase her and the friends down the street, murdering them brutally before stringing up their corpses and mangled bodies in the front yard. Needless to say, when Akira gets back home and sees what happened, yeah, it's brutal. So Akira goes to confront Ryo about, why he bothered to get this whole mess started in the first place, and this is the point where he learns the truth about Ryo's identity. So with really nothing left to live for, Akira tries to fight Satan, and that doesn't go very well. So in the end, Satan wins. Akira is dead, all of humanity is dead, there's literally nothing left, so God just hits the big old reset button and creates a whole nother Earth. Before it all ends though, we do see Satan actually gets kind of sad and starts to regret his decision to kill Akira, the one and only person he could consider a friend. And I have to admit, interpreting the ending of this, determining the message is not an easy thing to do. When pushed by Ryo, humanity decides it's going to become its own undoing. It commits a whole bunch of heinous acts and just spreads the power of the devils more. Despite all of his attempts to show compassion to others, people only spit in Akira's face, they being unable or unwilling to look past his monstrous form. So what is the moral of the story? That people suck? I didn't really need an anime to tell me that much. Is evil just destined to triumph over good? Not necessarily. The crucial key moment that makes or breaks this whole series literally happens in the last scene. When we see Satan actually show some sadness over the death of Akira, it shows that despite not having reached many people, the compassion of Akira does break through the heart of Satan. So even though in life Akira never got to see what kind of accomplishments his actions had, it does seem to imply that eventually Akira's actions are going to cause a change in the most evil of people. Or maybe not. Like I said, the ending is still pretty ambiguous, so I'm sure there are multiple ways people could interpret the ending. This was just my own personal take. So Devilman had its ups and its downs, but it does have a strong finish that I'm gonna end up being more positive than negative on. What do you think of Devilman Crybaby? Is it the greatest work of all time, or is it just some pretentious trash? Yeah, those are just kind of my rough thoughts on Devilman Crybaby. I wasn't really planning on doing this review right now, but it just kind of worked out. So I'm gonna go get back to work on the next review, and I will see you guys then.